guys? Bang Bang Scooter Gang here. Apparently we had a couple requests on this bike, more in particular of how to set up the carburetor. Depending on what carburetor you have. We have the VM22s on pretty much all these bikes, except for John's. He's got his ordered. It's on its way. But we'll give you the general rundown on how to set the carburetors on these. Basically, I think on our other videos we explained, when these carburetors come from the factory, they come with a 95. A 95 main jet. Okay. When I did this carburetor, I didn't adjust the idle jet just because you ain't gonna need to. It's not. This engine isn't hopped up that much to where it's gonna need more fuel at idle. It's mainly just gonna be at top end because of the slip-on exhaust that we have and the bigger intake and all that stuff, and of course the cold air intake. But yeah. So basically, what me and Adam's bike have in it right now, the main jet. As long as you do anything between like a 110 to like a 120 jet, main jet, underneath the bowl here, it's going to be pretty decent. But if your carburetor's already on the bike, all you gotta do is just take these two 10s off right here on the intake. And if your bike's still stock yet, you're gonna get it with the carburetor facing out this way. So this whole thing's gonna be turned with the air filter facing back this way. I turn it this way because this is the way this is the way it works with it.
All your air is flowing through here as well, so you get the maximum amount of airflow.
Yeah, pretty much. You're gonna get all your cold air from there, not sucking up hot air from the engine. But yeah. Anyway, you gotta take these two 10s off, separate the carburetor from the intake, take this, unscrew this top slide right here. If you want to get in here, you gotta unscrew this right there. Unscrew that, and then pull the whole slide and everything out. The needle, just leave that hanging on the bike. Once you got that off, you obviously got to pinch your fuel line off if your bike has fuel on it. Take this little clamp off.
Take some vice grips to it, clamp them off, whatever. But if you have a fuel shut-off switch, then also you can do that as well.
Yeah, this bike here in particular doesn't, so you got to pinch the fuel line off. Take this little clamp off here, and then pop the fuel line off, and the carburetor should just fall right out. Now, once you get that off, all you gotta do, I think there are 4 Phillips screws here on the bowl. Yep, right there, right there. Just be cautious with it when you take this apart, because there is a rubber gasket in there that once this carburetor has had fuel to the gasket, it will expand and it will become deformed. It'll be very, very difficult to put back together. This one here, I actually had to use a little bit of like contact glue to hold the gasket down while I was putting the bowl back on. But yeah, and actually I got it back together. I ended up ordering another one just in case I had to take the bowl back off again, but I didn't. It seems to be running really good right now as far as like doing your plug rating and stuff like that, which I'll talk about that once we talk about the jetting part of it. But anyway, once you get the 4 screws off the bowl, you pull the whole bowl off, and there should be 2 jets. There's gonna be one, if you look from here straight down, the jet that's right there, that's your main jet. That's the one
in the middle.
Yep, it's right in the middle. If you look right where the slide came out, straight down, right to there. That's where your main jet's gonna be. The 95
carb on it.
Yeah, the 95 will be a little bit lean yet. I'll do maybe like 100 just to give it a little bit more.
Okay.
But once you start doing like your add-on parts, like your air filter, your exhaust, even like your bigger intake, like I have on mine, you're definitely gonna need to put a bigger one in it, like a 115 to 120ish.
Yeah, if
right
you're putting in the cone filter on and also putting on the exhaust, you're 115 to 125. You'd be solid.
Just judging from my experience with this bike, with my plug ratings that I did, which once you obviously put the carburetor back on, put the fuel back to it, get that all situated. Once you come down here and take your plug off, I think it's a 5/8, I believe. Spin your plug out and put a fresh one in. Once you do that, ride it for like 300 miles or so, depending on how long you want to ride it for. You can ride it for as long as you want, obviously, but and then reverse process, take the plug back out and look at it. It should be like I would say like a coffee and cream type look. That's how the plug should look when you take it out. If it's like a bright white, like almost the color of Adam's bike, if it's white like that, it's running really lean. And if it's like really black, like charcoal black, it's running really rich. So that you just got to find a happy medium with them. And I found with these bikes that 115 to 120 is like a perfect jet size for it.
And that's what I'm running in my bike there, and John will be running the exact same in his bike then. Yep. So, and it does very well. So now that we just went over, how we take it off, and again, this intake here, when he has his intake here, that was reversed. But obviously, when you take all of it out, you're gonna take all that junk out of there, the old box.
Yeah.
On his bike, he has to turn his to make sure everything fits.
Yeah.
Mine, I didn't have to. The
And
Hellcat,
also,
you didn't have to do that. But then that's where, because you get the maximum air and all the good flow. So everything just works better when you just like flip it, make it all go one way.
Yeah, I also did it too, just because of the fact that this is a whole different intake tube that's bigger. It's actually matching, like pretty much matching the whole size of the outlet of the carburetor.
Yeah.
So it's all like one size going directly into the head. So it's getting its maximum flow that it can get, as much as that the camshaft and the engine will take it. Let it take.
Now, we just did tell him how to, obviously when you take all that off and you put it back on. Now, let's say once the viewer has its carb on and everything like that, and put the jet back in. And when you put the jet, not the jet, but if you put the slide.
It's another thing. I should also probably tell you guys to be cautious about this too. When you guys are doing your slide here, you got to be careful, because there is a certain way this slide goes in.
Right.
I'll actually pull it out for you guys here. So, if you could, I don't know if you can see down there, but if you look right there, there's a line right there. There's actually a little tab that sticks out into that slide right there that's grooved into. So there's a little slide in a groove that's in the carb that slides into. So when you're doing it, I would advise to actually put the slide in the carburetor before you actually bolt the carburetor to the bike, so you can see it. But I've taken this carburetor off so many times, I can just do it by feel.
Yeah.
Like if you grab a hold of it and just turn it a little bit, you'll feel it just pop right in. And then push it down, and then obviously just tighten it up. That's the one thing you got to be cautious with, and make sure it goes in straight, because if not, your actual needle valve that's on the slide here, this guy, that'll become bent. If that becomes bent, you're gonna have a whole other world of problems.
Yeah.
But yeah, I pretty much got it now, so I can actually feel it and get it to slide in.
It's good that you said that, because that's what I was getting ready to say, because that's an important tip right there.
Yeah. If that goes in there wrong, you'll know it.
Don't force. If you put it in there and you go to twist the slide a little bit and it's like fully turning, do not jam in it. Just take it back out.
Yep.
Find that little notch in there, and once it's in, you should be able to again twist it, and nothing barely any play there. Like, you shouldn't be able to twist the whole thing. Then you know you're good.
And then I found for this bike in particular, when I put this carburetor on there, the factory carb, they all should be the same for these bikes. There's a little metal elbow that comes with the cable that it curves and makes like a perfect 45-degree angle right here. You actually have to take that bend off to actually make this cable long enough to work with this carb. Because if you don't take it off, it's going to hold your throttle slide open, and no matter how much you adjust your idle, which we'll get to that, idling is never ever going to come down. It's always going to stay like 30,000 RPMs all the time.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you got to do: take the little elbow off, and then do that, and then see how there's a little bit of play up here on the throttle. That's going to be normal for this.
Yeah.
Because that's how you know your slide's all the way shut. If you can't even do that, and it's like you feel like you have force on it from the throttle's opening.
Like there's tension there.
Yeah, like there's tension there all the time. That means that their slide is not closed all the way.
Yeah, and it's tight there.
Yeah.
Tension or whatever.
So that's one thing you also got to be cautious with.
He was saying right here, there would be like a little elbow.
It looks like a little metal elbow that comes on.
You can take that off and just slide that bad boy in there.
Yep. Yeah. Then you just put the cable directly down onto the top of your slide cap there.
Yep. Now, what we just talked about here will be the exact same thing for the Hellcat and pretty much the SSR. The SSR will be a little different. John will show you that when he uploads one on his channel. But the same with the Hellcat and this bike here, the Feroza. It's the same concept. Everything's good. So
yeah, it depends on what carburetor you have. I know we had a guy one of our viewers that said he has a different kind of carburetor, but it's going to be the same general concept. As far as how to adjust the carb, basically, once you have everything bolted up, did what we told you to do with the jets and stuff like that, depending on your mods. What you gotta do is start the bike up. If it won't start, the best thing to do is find your fuel air screw. On this carburetor here in particular, it's behind here. Like if you look out on the outlet, if you look straight down, there's a little screw that's right down there. It's like impossible to get to on this carb, the way the setup is. But what I did with this, since it's the way it is, I actually took the carb before I even put it on the bike, and I turned the fuel screw in all the way in. Turn it all the way into a seated. You don't have to force it. Just turn it into a seats, and then back it out 1.5 turns. And that right there is a good baseline for pretty much any kind of engine, whether it's 450cc, 600, 700. It doesn't matter. It's going to make it start. It might not make it start and run the best.
It's a good place to start. It's so your bike will start, and you're like, yes, okay, progress.
But for this situation here, that setting actually worked perfect for this bike, and I think Adam's too.
Yeah, mine was
I think
fine.
his is pretty much the same too. So yeah, pretty much 1.5 fuel turns on the fuel air screw.
So
From seated
you
all
want
the
to
way
repeat
in.
that just one more time, just in case anyone missed that.
Yep.
Just real,
Okay.
real simple and
For the
clear.
fuel
just,
air screw, basically just turn it in all the way in, like you're tightening it up.
Yep.
Tighten it up to the seats. You don't have to go like real hard on it. Just seat it, back
to
it out.
it snug a little
Yep,
bit.
snug a little bit, back it out, 1.5 turns. That's all you need to do. And then
And it's a good starting point.
good
And
starting
then
point,
when you
yep.
now that bike should, in theory,
Yep.
100% should just start.
Yep.
Now if it's have trouble idling, then okay, you go to the idle screw, then just bump it up a little bit.
Yep. Now if I know there's another viewer that said he had a different carburetor on it. Most other carburetors has the fuel air screw like right on the side somewhere. It's either like facing down this way or somewhere right around in here.
Yeah.
It's usually right there.
Or obviously, or it could be on the other side too. But
Yeah,
in
or
that same
it could be
general,
on the other side. You just got to be careful though, because then you might mix it up with your idle screw.
If you do have the bikini, don't get confused with this screw down here. That is just to let the fuel out.
Yep, that's just
drainage.
if you open this up, there's this little hole right here.
It'll drain the bowl.
Yeah, the fuel in the bowl is gonna just drain out.
Yeah, so don't mess with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, on here, like you said, it's gonna be hard because it's actually physically all the way in here.
Yep, it's right back in there.
Oh, you see this here?
Yep.
Just right in the middle there, you'll see. Let me see if I can get my finger in there.
Yep.
Nope, not at all.
No, it's kind of difficult.
Yeah, but it's right underneath this thing here. See that right there?
You'll see like a little hump right there. Yep.
Yeah, right there. It's literally right underneath it. That's your fuel there, right? Fuel and air mixture.
Yep. Fuel air screw. Yep.
Yep.
And then on the other side, once you got that adjusted, if you just turn your key on and try to get it to start, if it won't start, it's most likely you're idle. So the best thing to do would be while you're trying to start it, just hold the throttle a little bit open. Hold the throttle a little bit open and hit the start button. And once it starts, obviously it might sound like it's idling fine, but then once you leave go of the slide or leave go of your throttle, it's just going to shut off then if your idle isn't adjusted right. So the best thing to do is just hold it open a little bit and then start it. And then come down here. The idle screw on this carburetor in particular is right here. In general, I think this is pretty much where most of them are all going to be. For the most part, on every carburetor I've ever seen, it's always right there. But yeah, you just turn that in until you can leave go of the throttle, and it actually sits there and idles, or at a higher RPM or wherever it's at the point. But the best thing to do is just turn it until it's idling a little high, and then watch your RPM gauge. Okay, these ones right here are running right around like what?
1500.
1500. Yeah, that's a good idling spot for them. But yeah, basically, just turn the screw in. You turn it inward to make it idle. So basically, just turn it in or back it out, however far you need to go, till it comes down to like 1500 or so. Once it's right around 1500, just let it sit there and idle for a little bit, let it get warmed up, and then just to check it, just give it a couple little throttle twists, just to make sure it's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll show you a little idea of what I mean here. It's in neutral. You want to show them how it's idling?
Yeah.
Right now it's idling a little warm, down a little low because it's cold. You see how it's you'll hear it. The engine will sound like it's struggling if it's not idling high enough. But then if it's idling too high, you'll obviously hear it. It'll sound like that or something like that. That's the same concept for the.
You would Johnny want to keep it between 15 and just under 2.
Yeah.
But if you're still at like 18, 19, I mean, that might be a little high. But that's where it's like, that's where it's feeling you have a happy medium there, that's fine. But yeah. I wouldn't go anything more than 1900 or up.
Yeah.
But try to keep between 1500. I mean, this looks like it's idling around 12, and it's doing just fine.
Yeah.
It's pretty snappy.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty comfortable spot there. So again, try to keep it between that 1250 to 16 maybe. But again, even though higher than that might be a little too much.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you like it there, that's fine. You just probably a little more fuel consumption there or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the rundown of that. And again, if you guys still have questions, obviously hit us up on Facebook. Again, you guys have been doing a great job at using that source there.
Mind you, these are all these carburetors we're putting on these. They're all VM22s. Like I said, I know we had a viewer that said he got a different carb for it, but those adjustments are going to be generally the same,
right, for
the most part. I mean, unless of course it's a completely different carburetor, or I don't even know.
I watched this video. I think they're pretty good.